the court, could very easily just decline to take the case and say very little. It also has an opportunity to step in and say something more, more about the dramatic nature of the legal theory here, where one state could try to intermeddle in the inner workings of the electoral systems created by other states. And if the court chose to say something about that outlandish legal theory, it could really do some good. So I think that'll be worth watching. And if the court does say something more rather than just quietly declining to take the case, that certainly would be worth teaching. The court, could very easily just decline to take the case and say very little. It also has an opportunity to step in and say something more, more about the dramatic nature of the legal theory here, where one state could try to intermeddle in the inner workings of the electoral systems created by other states. And if the court chose to say something about that outlandish legal theory, it could really do some good. So I think that'll be worth watching. And if the court does say something more rather than just quietly declining to take the case, that certainly would be worth teaching.
All right, but in fairness, I think we all expect them quietly to just do nothing and say nothing. But we'll see. You're right. They could send quite the message. I want to put up this quote here from the Nebraska Secretary of State, who also decided to join this lawsuit. And this is what his rationale. It is absolutely essential that credible claims of election improprieties be brought to light and fully investigated. Tens of millions of Americans have been left wondering about the integrity of our elections. The success of our representative democracy requires that legitimate concerns about the election be properly addressed. The Texas lawsuit is an effort to do so. So I want to unpack his quote here. He's basically saying, because somebody who claims to have credibility has made a claim that is the equivalent of evidence. I mean, at least that's how I'm reading this, is that because somebody says they don't trust the results, that's the evidence to investigate. I assume that's not enough for any court to say, oh yeah, that's evidence.
It's not enough. It's just an elementary principle that you can't just make allegations of a naked sort. You got to at some point come forward with reliable facts that support the kind of allegations you're trying to make. And if we look at the Texas lawsuit, really, we don't have a situation where where there's smoke, there's fire. Instead, we're sort of living a situation more like the idiot who tells the tale that is full of sound and fury signifying nothing. These allegations have been fully litigated in state and federal courts throughout the country and have been rejected. And this is sort of a last-ditch effort to try to convince the Supreme Court of the United States to act, as fact finders in the first instance, an extremely rare sort of power. And I just can't imagine that the court will be tempted to want to exercise that authority.
Hey, Ashley Parker, last weekend, I got a briefing from the Trump campaign about their various lawsuit strategies, and none of them, everything they briefed me on, and its background, I won't say who the names were, I'll abide by those rules, but everything they briefed on is null and void at this point. Not a single one of the suits that they were touting are what the president is focused on. Are we going to, and we saw the president changed his lawyer. Are more people in Trump's orbit backing away, including the campaign?
Well, you've seen this from Election Day. Originally, I talked to people who had gotten similar briefings potentially as you got, and it seemed like there were some long shot, but at least semi-legitimate effort in legal plays to be made, right? As each one sort of fell out or didn't pan out, and it became an even longer shot, what you've seen is the people who are the serious lawyers, the serious campaign strategists generally, the people who have perhaps even after 4 years in Trump world a shred of credibility left, quietly backing away. That's in the president's White House, that's in the campaign, and it is very telling to look at who is willing to go out and defend this. Who are the people making these claims? And they are no one with any credibility at this point.
That's for sure. Ashley Parker, Robert Sy, thank you both. It is interesting today. Bill Stepien put out a release about Joe Biden going to Georgia, and essentially, because Stepien said this was about control of the United States Senate at stake, the campaign manager's way of admitting Joe Biden won the election. Up ahead, the COVID fight on two fronts. The healthcare workers rushing to treat a surge of patients and an attempt to stop the surge of misinformation.